All right, good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of you to our meeting. At this time, I would like to get a motion to approve the agenda that's before you. Could I get that motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second, Judy? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, I want to turn the meeting over to Amanda Simpkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to come forward to let everybody know that I will be stepping down from my duties on the school board effective today. I did let Madam Chair and Dr. Jackson know. This is due to personal reasons and some changes going on, but we just wanted to publicly let everyone know.
Thank you, Amanda. I want to take an opportunity to tell the public and Amanda how much I appreciate the work that she's done on this board. Any challenge that I have asked her to attack, she has done it with grace and authenticity and strength. And she has represented us, Buncombe County Schools and this board, in an exemplary fashion. And I appreciate that, Amanda. Thank you. Do other members have things they'd like to say?
I'd like to just echo what you were saying, Madam Chair, and really going to miss having you around here, but look forward to seeing all the other exciting things that you'll be doing. The only thing I'm disappointed in is now I have to get a calculator out because my math person is leaving.
Well, you know I'm going to speak up. And I'll get emotional. So you can pass the Kleenex down. Amanda, I've known you since the 6th grade, I believe. I've watched you grow as a person, a wonderful, wonderful student, and a great athlete, and represented Irwin High School in a great way while you attended that school. When I found out you were running for the school board, I was so excited because you bring so much to the board. Your experience in teaching, the love you have for sports, the love you have for every single child, and every teacher, because you know what it's like to be a teacher. I know family comes first, and it was probably a very hard decision. And you're going to be missed because you are very, very smart. You ask great questions. You brought up things that I hadn't even thought about, particularly around the redistricting. So I wish you well. You're not going to get away from me. I know your mom, but I'm going to miss you. Thank you. A lot.
Anyone else?
Amanda, I would just like to say, I remember when we hired you as a beginning teacher. I remember visiting your classroom many, many times and how engaged your students were and how much you absolutely loved them and they loved you. And I know you brought that to the board when you came to work with us. And we're definitely going to miss you, as it has already been stated. But please know that the welcome mat is always open. And I know that you'll find a way to engage yourself with Buncombe County Schools in some way as we move forward to support the students, whether it's at ball games or whatever they might be doing. So thank you for everything you've done. We love you and we appreciate everything.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you too for your service. You've been an example of community leadership that's been really important and certainly inspired one of the people that inspired me to run. So for this seat, and your compassion for every student out there in this district and beyond, and your love for public education is going to be missed. And we've got some big shoes to fill as a community here. So thank you, though. It's been an honor to serve with you.
Do you have something you want to say?
Not anything new that anybody else has said, everybody else has said, but I would second everything that each one said.
Amanda, we look forward to you being a community member and to not shy away from taking time to tell us what you think about what we're doing, as long as you tell us we're doing it well. At this time, I'll turn it over to our attorney.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I too want to thank you, Ms. Simpkins. I think you've been an outstanding board member. And it's been a privilege and honor to work with you. So thank you. Board members, with Ms. Simpkins' resignation from the board, it is up to the board to fulfill the unexpired term. If I'm not mistaken, Ms. Simpkins' seat is up for re-election in November. And so the board can fill her seat with somebody that it chooses. It is up to you to choose. And then that seat would certainly still be up for re-election. So whoever you do choose in that seat would only serve until the first Monday of December, or whenever the next group would take office. Your policy does not outline a specific way to do this, and neither does the law. All the law says is that you will choose the replacement, and they have to come from the district in which the person in the seat lives. And since Ms. Simpkins is the at-large member, you may appoint anybody that lives within the Buncombe County school system. They do not have to be from a specific district. You can make this as complicated or as simple or as efficient as you would like. I know when Mr. Queen passed away, the board sought resumes and letters of intent from interested persons to send in at that point in time would have been from the Inca district. And of course, obviously the board chose Ms. Lewis at that time. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know if you necessarily have a lot of time to go through an extensive process. If the goal is to try to seat somebody and get them up to speed prior to the June meeting, and because I know you'll have 2 meetings in June, your regular meeting, then maybe a budgetary meeting as well near the end of the fiscal year, and then potentially the month of July off. So if that's kind of our timeline, my recommendation would be, again, that you kind of follow suit with what you did when Mr. Queen passed away, and that is just to seek letters of intent and or resumes from interested persons in the community. We would advertise that through our communications department. You can even put it on the website, set a deadline for those, and then come back at some point in time prior to the June meeting if you wanted to. You could wait to the June meeting, but if your intent is to get the person seated at the June meeting so he or she can make decisions, you would want to have a special call meeting before then, before that time, to be able to come back. So that is up to you all in regards to the calendar of how you process this. Once we get to the meeting in which you make a decision, it's not an election where everybody who has applied for the position, you have to go and see how everybody votes. Really, it's just a motion. So it would simply be, I move to that the Board of Education appoint John Smith to fulfill the vacant seat. Second, discussion. All in favor, all opposed. And if it passes, then John Smith becomes the new board member in that hypothetical. All of this discussion does occur in open session. There is not a closed session component to this because it is about a board member specifically, and it is not an employee or personnel matter. So any discussions that you do have would occur in open session as well. So happy to talk about any questions or answer any questions. Otherwise, I think it's just up for you all to determine, one, the process that you want to use, and two, what your kind of timeline would look like. And the superintendent may have some comments too on the timeline, or the chair, about trying to make sure, whether or not the goal is to have somebody seated for the first June meeting or potentially the second June meeting.
So I have a question, as always. So a resume, letter of intent, is there any kind of face-to-face meeting, or everything's based on what we have, what we get?
So it's the board's discretion.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of so I've been in this situation a few times with different boards, and I'm trying to think if I've ever had anybody who has done interviews. And I don't want to say no, because I might forget something. I can't remember doing interviews off the bat. Again, those interviews would have to be in an open session, public meeting.
Right.
But I think that's going to depend on how you all feel. Now, You don't necessarily have to make that decision today. You can wait till you get the resumes or letters of intent. And you don't, I keep saying resumes, you certainly don't have to require resumes. I think a letter of intent at least is the minimal though. Until you get those and take a look, and then you can decide whether or not you want to have any other additional conversation with one or more people who have submitted letters of intent.
Thank
So,
you.
My question is, and refresh my memory, the letters of intent, I assume they become public record?
They do.
Okay.
So technically so do the resumes as well. So I think part of one of the things that we may have told folks when they communicated with us last time was that they needed to remember that anything that they provide us is public record.
Because some of us have been through this before, to move through this process in a timely fashion, I believe is important. I believe it's important to seat a person, a qualified person, as quickly as possible. So to that end, I would like to make a motion that we advertise this vacancy, and that I have not thought this out, so I'm just, that we advertise this vacancy and ask for letters of intent to be sent in to Kim Matthews by a close of day on the 22nd of May, which would be exactly 1 week. I believe that's what we did in the past. And then from that would be my motion in that regard. Do you want me to stop there, or do you want me to continue? I'll continue.
Go ahead. Well,
Well, that's the end of your motion. Is that the end of your motion?
No, I'm gonna talk some more.
As a motion or in support of the motion?
As a motion,
Oh,
as
okay.
continuance of my motion.
Oh, okay.
And at the end of the workday on the 22nd, then we would call a special, we would have the 23rd and the 24th to read those letters of intent. And then on the 28th, which is the day after Memorial Day, have a special called meeting to make that decision. You want me to do that again? Okay. Would you reread it to us?
Yes, ma'am. So the motion is to advertise the vacant board seat and ask for letters of intent from interested persons sent to Ms. Matthews by May 22nd, 2024, close of business, and then on May 28th to hold a special called meeting to discuss and potentially make a decision on filling the board seat.
I'd look for a motion to that. I mean, a second to that.
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you. I can do that. I'm not out of order. So I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Yeah, I have some thoughts around that too. Just on the timeline, I guess I'm curious as to that is very fast, 2-week turnaround.
That's what we were able to do when we were dealing with Max Queen.
Sure. I'm just curious as to, like, I would think that it may benefit us to extend the timeline a little bit further. I guess I would be in favor of, pushing that timeline out further to where it's at least 2 weeks to receive cover letters. I'd also include resumes in that request, but that's your motion. I guess I'm speaking against the motion.
Okay.
Because I believe the timeline's too short, it doesn't include resumes. I think.
I didn't ask for a resume in my motion. I asked for
that's
a
what
letter
I'm-
of intent.
That's what I'm pointing out. In this discussion, I think I'm speaking against the motion because the timeline's too short, it doesn't include resumes.
Okay.
I'll hold my thoughts for what I think should happen after the vote.
Any more discussion?
I know I did the second, but can I ask a question?
Of course I can.
Our next board meeting is June 8th?
6th.
6th. So, going back to what Rob said, if we, we do the 6th, okay. So that, if we make the decision on the 29th, that gives someone.
28th.
28th, excuse me. It gives someone just a week, to prepare for the June meeting, is that, okay? And how, I don't know if I can ask this question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway, and then you can
You
tell me.
have
if
to
I'm-
speak in your mic, I can't hear.
You can't hear me? Oh, wow, okay. So, when you had Mr. Queen's, passing, was there a lot of interest? I mean, because, you know, this could be,
You can,
you never know, I understand, but this is at large.
I would have to ask Miss Matthews if she remembers. Two, we got two.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
I knew we got more than one, but I couldn't remember if we
I
got.
actually thought we had 3, but Ms. Matthews would remember.
She would remember, okay. So, okay. I know we can't, and we won't know until the deadline,
Yeah.
but,
Okay, so my motion has been said and read and seconded.
Can
have
I
one more
ask one more
question.
question?
Dean, is there any rule in our policy that says that we have to have the seat filled by the next board meeting? 'Cause, I mean, if we went through one board meeting cycle without someone in the seat, that's not in violation of our policy, correct?
No, what the statute does say, if you don't fill it within 60 days, it can roll over to the Superior Court judge to make the appointment. But there would, obviously, the next board meeting is not within 60 days either. It's just a few weeks away. So there's nothing that would require that. From a practical standpoint, I would say you've got your June meeting, and you'll have the end of the month June meeting, which will maybe, sometimes those are short, sometimes those are long. And then you don't have a meeting in July, and then you'll have a meeting in August. And so, you know, if you don't appoint by this June meeting, the first regular meeting would likely be August that this person would attend. I don't know if that makes a difference to any of you or not. It may or may not. So that's just a practical point.
So I think you might have answered my question, Dean, then. Since we do have a meeting and it's already on the books for the 27th of, or I think it's the 27th of June. Sorry. Is that something that we could decide at that time, on that date?
At the June meeting?
The June 27th meeting, at the end of the month?
At the end of the month, yes, you could decide that on
Okay.
June 27th if you wanted to. You could decide on your
The
regular
first June
meeting in
meeting.
June, if that's what you wanted to do, and assuming we could orchestrate it correctly, you could decide at the beginning of the meeting, and then have some, if the people were here that you were considering, and the person that you choose was here, we could have them sworn in and actually seated then. That's a little bit of probably more orchestration than we want to finesse at that point in time, but you don't have, there's nothing that says you've got to have a special call meeting. You could approve this at a special call meeting before June 6th, at June 6th, or on June 27th as well.
So if we did it, like, say we did like Rob was suggesting, extend the time out some, and we came to a decision and we knew by the meeting on June 6th. But like you said, trying to orchestrate things, you know, could be a little bit more time consuming. Would it be possible that we could make that decision and that announcement on the 6th, and then that individual would be sworn in at some time to sit in as a full board member on the end of June's meeting?
Correct. And so,
Okay.
let's say if the board decided, we're going to decide this on June 6th.
Mhm.
My recommendation would be to the person that you selected
Mhm.
to get sworn in as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Either, and there's lots of different ways to get sworn in, so
Mhm.
that's not an issue. But to get sworn in as soon as possible, so then they can start interacting with the superintendent
Mhm. Mhm.
and you all as a board member. And so they can be read in on closed session topics or other confidential topics as well. and then certainly also just be prepared in general for the June 27th meeting. So,
Which may actually advocate for extending it some, but I
I
would be
mean,
concerned
yeah.
to go past June 27th.
yeah. That's up, the timeline is up to you all. As long as we get within 60 days, I'm fine. I just wanted to make sure that you all do it on a timeline that you're comfortable with and have consensus on.
Judy?
Madam Chair, based on my own experience, I would say the sooner the better in terms of making a decision to have someone sit in on the board. I would caution us to go ahead and see who's interested to begin with. And I would think that the letters of interest would also include some knowledge of their background and experience of each of these persons. So we would have some knowledge going into it to name them even temporarily, because we know that Amanda's position would have been vacated and have to be sought again in November. So this is only a temporary thing, any way you look at it. So I would say go ahead as soon as possible and get someone here based on whatever we see that their experiences are and what we feel, they could step up and add to our team already, and get that done, and then go from there in November and see what happens.
Dr. Jackson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and board members. The staff is ready to move forward with any plan that the board has. We'll make sure that communication goes out. We can get that communication out even today if the board approves a plan today. I would just echo one thing our attorney said, which is that until the board member is sworn in, I can't share with the board member the information that they might need to be prepared for a meeting. And then secondly, as you'll recall, particularly our newer board members, prior to a board member being seated, we like to do a board member 101 session with them that's typically almost a full day, so they have some understanding. The last meeting in June is a budget meeting, and so that amplifies how much they need to be prepared to understand, because that's a huge decision that we make on that day, and so we certainly want them to have time to be able to be prepared to make a good decision on that day. But the staff is ready to go forward with any decision the board makes.
Okay, that being said, I would,
Do I vote?
sorry?
Am I involved? I'm not
Yeah,
involved.
you vote.
I do vote?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Didn't she vote? Didn't Amanda vote?
She does not.
That's what I thought.
Well, I am real sorry, Amanda, I told you wrong. That being said, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of my motion, I don't usually do that, it sounds funny to say it. All those in favor of my motion, please say aye.
Could we repeat the motion one more time?
So-
I'm sorry.
No problem. So,
What'd you say? Repeat it.
she wants me to repeat the motion.
Okay.
So the motion is to advertise the vacancy and ask for letters of intent from interested persons to be sent to Kim Matthews by May 22nd, 2024, and that on May 28th, there would be a special called meeting to consider the letters of intent and to potentially make a decision.
All right. Having heard that, all those in favor of my motion, please say aye.
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 Okay, are you voting? Aye. Amy, did you vote, or are you not voting? You're voting against me. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 ayes. All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 2 opposed, so the motion passes.
Motion passes.
Okay.
And she's voting against your motion, not against you.
Can I just add something? Because Judy brought up a really good point. On this letter of intent, is there a form? Is there any instructions? Because I think experience is a big part of this. I'm not saying you have to be an educator, obviously, I'm not. But I would like to know the experience someone has as a community leader, public school support, that kind of thing. So is there a way we can put that in the advertisement? You know, I come from a background of hiring people, so.
Sure. I mean, I don't see any reason why that necessarily would require a motion, and I think we can provide some instance of, or, you know, some language that letters of intent should include relevant experience and interactions or involvement with schools. If
Yeah,
that,
I just think that is extremely important for us to have that information. So thank you, Ms. Lewis, for bringing that up.
All right,
And-
so,
So sorry.
what you need?
I was just gonna say, if at all, I do think attaching a resume or a CV, however thin that might be, it's still a good idea too, because it does piggyback off of the things that Kim is requesting.
so, two things. The chair's motion didn't preclude a resume, so if anybody wants to make a second motion, you're welcome to do that. But there would be two ways to do that. One, include a resume, or just simply, resumes are encouraged or welcome
Okay.
as well. So not require it, but
Okay.
just welcome it. I don't, Judy, did we ask for resumes when you, I don't know when the last time you polished off your resume was. I've not looked for a job in 20 years, and so, and part of the reason why is because I can't find my resume. So I'm just saying that I think you have to be mindful too that some people, you might be asking people to create what they consider not a complicated document, but
No,
something
I
they
hear
legally
you.
have.
I've actually been there and done that. I had to brush mine off not long ago, and oh, good Lord, I had to get Madeline Churchill to help me.
Yeah.
So, I am happy to hear that we can encourage, though I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know that was an option to just encourage
I
that.
think we can work with Ms. Matthews and have her make a statement that says letters of interest, and please,
Sorry. It's Judy's fault. You get one last time to chastise me.
I wish the SRO was here and I could call somebody to help me out, you know? Anyhow, I think we can work the language out for that and get it to go. So we now know the motion has passed, we know what the next steps are, and we have a proposed meeting date and a time that is set for the letters of intent to be received. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Can I,
Can I,
may I make one more statement?
Yes, sir.
It sounded like to me that, I mean, if there's any objection, I think we should include language that if you are submitting a letter of intent, you are also welcome to submit your resume
yes,
as well. Is there consensus around that?
yes. And the
Okay.
experience piece, where will
Yeah.
that be?
Yeah, I think we'd put that in there.
I
I'd put
don't-
that in there too.
I don't know that I want to call it a resume, but to have to indicate your experience
Yeah.
somehow.
We can
Okay.
take care of that.
We can do
Yep.
that.
I just want to make sure that was a consensus
Okay.
of the board.
And
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I have one more question. How is this being, I know it's broadcast at this moment.
Sure.
Will, I'm sure we did a press release, or
We
going
will.
to, or going to. So how quickly will we get that out? Going back to Mr. Elliott's question.
I understand that the press release is ready for this afternoon's disbursement, is that correct?
We will be able to get that out this afternoon. We will need to make some of the changes based on the board decision today.
Okay.
So, but yes, we'll get that out today. And our intent is to use all of our communication platforms, social media, website, Thrillshare, et cetera. So we will do everything we can to get this out to the broadest possible audience.
Yeah. I just think, again, with the time frame, we've got to get this communicated as quickly as possible.
Well, and we did with Max, you know, when we, and that has been very recent.
I know.
And, yeah, so I answered your question, or we answered your question? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?